Following Roosevelt's massive expansion of government, no administration has successfully been able to fully return it to the founders' intentions. Over time, that government seemed to forget its real purpose.
It's pretty hard to readjust someone's relationship with government if we're not presenting what the alternative looks like.
Debate in politics should be man's relationship to the state. It should be about liberty. And the purpose of the Constitution was to protect our liberty by constraining the power of the federal government.
Create a pathway whereby people can pursue life, liberty, and happiness.
But do those powerful words from the Declaration of Independence still ring true today? Can our systems still create the conditions necessary for that pursuit of the American dream? A people that values its privileges above its principles soon loses both. Dwight Eisenhower. As we look upon our nation today, we must consider what it takes to create a climate for the American dream and what role our government has in that process.
We got to give people the ability to achieve, and it's as simple as that. We have to create an environment that's conducive to success.
The founders of our country recognize that there are certain things that the federal government should be specifically put in charge of, and everything else should be left to the states. And the fundamental reason for that was, first of all, government's not good at some things. It's bureaucratic. It's not a negative about a government per se, it's just the nature of the animal. And therefore, keeping things closer to the voter will always be better. And that was their premise. That's the reason we have 50 states, mayors, county government, et cetera.
One of the great challenges in this debate between liberty and security is that too often people just rush to security. And now we're getting to a point where if it's a pandemic or if it's an economic slowdown, that you rely on the government to try and pull yourself out of it. That's not how our society was set up.
In an attempt to find solutions to the Great Depression, government expanded dramatically, and then the welfare system dramatically expanded in the 60s. The reality of that is it's put more burden upon every American, put more power in federal bureaucrats that aren't as close to the voters, aren't responsive to the voters in many ways. It's easy to enact laws, it's very hard to do away with them.
The government has negatively impacted all the different agencies because they have overreached.
One very significant change that I don't think the founders intended is the rise of the administrative state. And many have called this the fourth branch of government because it is a bureaucracy that has a massive amount of power, and no one quite knows how big it is. There are all these ABC institutions that have immense power, but are not elected. And they're not accountable to the people. So the people have lost that mechanism of approval and the responsibility that the leaders owe towards the people.
The 9th and 10th Amendments, which are two of my favorite amendments, and I call them the two forgotten amendments, are basically, can be summarized in one sentence, that all powers not specifically designated to the federal government rest with the states and the people. I think people in Washington have forgotten about those amendments.
Government growth doesn't stay the same. It grows on its own initiative. And if you don't take it on directly and say, we're spending $15 billion a year on education, where in the Constitution does the federal government have a role in education? It shouldn't. If you got it out, you'd have better education and save a lot of money. The key to controlling spending is to cut programs. You can't even say we're going to reduce the budget because it just grows again. You got to put a stake through the heart.
I think one of the greater challenges that we have goes back to our education system. For most of my career in Washington, people have been complaining about college. Oh, college is teaching these things that aren't in line with our values and our heritage. And the problem I think we've realized in recent years is that, whoa, this goes way back further than college. This goes back into high school, goes into middle school, goes into grade school, goes back to kindergarten.
What you want to do is provide for that low-income family the most opportunities there are. So why not let that mother send their kid to the best school that they can? Government interferes with the American dream. One of my favorite economists of all time was Walter Williams, and he went through all of the policies, whether it was minimum wage or occupational licensing, that the left said were going to help minorities, but actually hurt them.
When reviewing America's past, our struggle with racial injustice stands out as one of our greatest regrets. It is fair to ask ourselves, what was then and what is now?
Is there systemic racism in modern America? Certainly there has been in the past. In today's America, it is rare. Does it exist? Of course it does. I don't know that you'll ever get rid of it as long as there's good and evil. But it has changed dramatically.
Well, they've already paid the price for me not to ride on the back of the bus, and I have. I've drank from the colored and white water fountain. They paid the price for me not to do that. Why would I dishonor their legacy? There is nothing that we have to win as far as civil rights is concerned. We have that.
A place that it does still exist is in those people who think that they can determine how certain segments of the society are supposed to behave based on their skin color. And they'll tell people like myself, you ain't black, or you're an Uncle Tom, or what have you, like they get to decide.
Though issues of race often prove divisive, perhaps no more so than entitlements, seemingly well-intended government programs take trillions of dollars out of the pockets of hardworking Americans and leave the financial security of the next generation in question.
Social Security is an evil system that requires people to participate in a plan over which they have no control. You are forced to pay X dollars into Social Security. There is no account there. You just pay your money, and at that point, it's no longer yours. The courts have ruled that it's owned by the government, and you have no right to the money. So when you die, your money goes to the government because the government already has it. One of the ways you build up capital in a family is by passing assets on to the next generation. But if you don't own those assets, you can't pass them on. And it's kind of cruel that a person works their entire working life, pays into the system, in theory can build up millions of dollars, but as soon as you die, poof, the money's gone.
I've always advocated for new solutions such as privatizing Social Security for younger folks so they have a choice. Do you want to stay in the current system, or do you want to opt out into a system where basically you have a 401k for yourself? Too often, people don't see the opportunity they have to have a lot more money in their account and to control their account. And I think part of the problem is we have not done a good enough job of explaining, okay, we may oppose these programs, but it's because this other program will be better for you and your family.
But government overreach isn't limited to deep-rooted programs. The COVID-19 pandemic marked one of the greatest examples of unchecked government in modern America.
I never thought I would see the day where government would feel like it had the power to shut down businesses, to shut down schools, to shut down churches, to shut down playgrounds, to tell people they couldn't go outside. These were such violent violations of personal liberty that they should have been struck down as completely unconstitutional.
It was obvious that science wasn't being followed and that people were just spewing opinions, which is why everything changed from week to week, which is generally not the case with science and real data. My hope is that we learn from that.
Although modern challenges continually threaten the founding principles of America, those principles still find a way to persevere.
The great thing about our government is it's not a winner-take-all system. You know, no matter who wins, we still have to live with our Constitution and the basic parameters. That's a good thing.
But so many of those founding values continue through this day, and it's about preserving those values that have gotten us to this point. But at the same time, every generation is going to challenge this American dream and our fundamentals.
Americans are not a people united by an ethnicity or religion. We're a people united by these principles and by those ideas of limited government, of individual responsibility, of all men are created equal. That's what makes us who we are as Americans. That's what makes us into one people. And so when we lose that history and we stop studying those things, we're losing ourselves.
If you have a good understanding of where we come from, you have this understanding that we are born in liberty. And then you start to understand and personalize what your relationship with your government should be.
That personal liberty is what continues to make America a shining city on a hill, both for her native citizens as well as for so many around the globe who hope to one day live out their own American dream.